Grace. She'll be on Paul Walker, his Florida guy who was filming with me for 2 weeks. And Santa Monica Bay, I got footage of threshers, white sea bass, black sea bass, and great whites, juveniles in the water, underwater for Shark Week 2014. And after we tagged her, got her tagged, and let her go with that tag on it, she, I think, went up to Canada and back, and now she's over by Hawaii. She stayed there for about 15 months, I believe it is. Now she's back up in the middle of the Sea of Cortez. She's going there to have pups. They're going to go intersect her and try to film her doing that. Nobody's supposed to know that it's going to be on Shark Week. And that's just going along with a storyline, and we're going to follow her for 6 years and keep updating her as each Shark Week goes by, and continue to tell the story, what she's got to do on this whole track of 6 years of that tag. So now then, what I've done is, you guys have heard of Guy Harvey? Yeah. He has put up $100 grand, and he wants me to do the same thing with the big Makos here, because we know way far less of the big Mako breeders than we do about the great whites. So I'm going to be doing that, and we're going to be starting to take that off right now.
Do you have to sling those?
Well, the big breeder females, they don't know anything about them, and they've never tagged them before. Last season, we were able to get satellite tags in a 400, an 800, and a 1200 pounder here. And I've always known where they're at since 1993, and I've just never told anybody. And some of the tournament guys have figured it out, but I was able to sway them and get them to not kill them and just tag and release them. So the thing is that we started tagging them, and I guess everybody's really excited about it, and they want more of that done. But we don't know where they're going, where they're breeding at, and then how often they're breeding, and exactly where they're dropping the pups at. But the tagging will tell us that, how often they're feeding on seals, because that's their primary diet. I've seen blue sharks in them, dolphins in them, striped marlin in them, but primarily seals in them. And one, I saw 5 blue sharks between 4 and 7 foot, and it was only 740 pounds. And one of them, 986-pound Tom Brooks old state record, that thing had 3 sea lions inside of it and the bird. So that was one we wanted to keep out there, right? Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is,
take some over to Catalina.
Yeah. So they're primarily eating those seals, and I think that with the tagging, that we'll be able to tell how often they're patrolling and eating, because you'll see a distinctive behavior pattern, and how long one will hold them over. And I think there's going to be a good year, because right now there's no fin bait around to speak of, which is another project I'm working on with Pew and Western Angler. And the deal is that the seals are starving and dying right now, so I think they're a pretty easy target. I think the big fish are going to stack up on them and get them, wipe them out, and clean them up like big garbage disposals. But the thing is that the dog catcher, they like to say. And so those big sharks, it's going to be interesting to figure it out. The 2 tags we're using, one is the ones that we use with the tag stick we just push in, and those work great for the up and down in the water. And then for the vertical, and then for the horizontal, that's the ones that we bolt on. And there's probably going to be an app, and it can take, every time that antenna breaks the surface, it sends a signal to the satellite, and you can look at it in real time exactly where it's at, what it's doing, temperature and the speed and everything else. So we'll be able to find out everything about them, so we can say to the feds, okay, you have all the information, let's make some sound decisions here that make sense. And that's what we're trying to do, get all the information together so we can run them out of excuses. Because you got to understand that they're making a lot of profit off the landing tax of every pound that's brought in by these commercial fisheries with the long lines and the gill nets. And they bring in a lot of revenue with that, and they want those profits. And Congress is in control of all that, and they tell those guys what they can and can't do. That's the bottom line. And they won't do anything without that science that has very definitive information. They have all the excuses they can get. Keep that money rolling in, because if they don't fill their quotas that they have, then they will lose it to other countries. And they don't want to do that. They want that revenue coming in. So it's a big mess, and it's not functioning very well. On the highly migratory species, the large pelagics, that's the biggest problem. It's like the land grabs of world wars all over again with our resources, with our fish offshore here.
How deep do we go with those satellite?
Well, I'll tell you something. You know, when I first started fishing Makos here, nobody knew how far they went, how deep they went. We looked at information from the East Coast where it's much warmer with the Gulf Stream, and they go down thousands of feet there. And I didn't know how deep these Makos went here, but I realized after we looked at some of the tracking, and they usually don't ever go below the thermocline. It's rare that they do that. They're usually above it, so when you're hunting, you always got to look at that temperature and make sure there's a thermocline. And the salmon sharks, you got to make sure there's no thermocline. So it's interesting, and with mako, it's got to be clean water. The salmon shark, it likes it up to 2% chloral, so there's all those little things. But those satellite tags will work and operate as deep as they can physically go with their oxygen, and my understanding of the design.
You said something about when the shark takes the water, it would send out a signal.
Yeah.
And you said you could pick it up on an app. Would that be something that only the scientists could receive, or?
No, you guys
Get
can
it
get
on your phone?
iPhones, you can get the app. It's if you look at, I think it's a White Shark app. I'm not that fresh right now, to say the least. But if you go to
Here's one that,
online on the White Shark app, it'll show you this stuff in real time. Exactly.
this is a fish track. They have
Yeah.
3 or 4 smaller makos that they're
Right.
tracking.
And I'll be working with Fish Track and Salt Life and Captain Jimmy Decker from ABC Extreme Sport Fishing Adventures this September. And we're going to try to get a very large fish on the show and tag it up. So that ought to be pretty radical. Those are just tiny little fish.
But they move a lot. I mean, like over 100 miles in only
Yeah.
2 days.
You know, and you know, we have our long lines banned inside 200 miles because we don't want them destroying our fishery. But if you look at this website, or top tagging of Pacific Predators website, that 200 miles is probably about, well, right here, and then all the makos, as you can see, will cover this whole area here. So they might as well not have a 200-mile limit, and they're banned here, which sounds great, but the reality is they still let them bring all their harvest in here and sell it, so they're still impacting the same exact fishery. So it does no good to ban them going. So basically, they're, in my opinion, doing a lot of competing in the public and outside out of line. And they're still destroying the fishery because it's still collapsing continuously.
Keith, as a person that likes to eat mako,
Yeah.
and I do, it makes more sense to me, and I just want your opinion,
Right.
is that if, and I only take one a year.
Right.
I took a 60-pounder.
Right.
It's better if I take one 60-pound man. He hasn't had an opportunity
Right.
to reproduce.
Right.
If I say, oh, well, if I take one of them, you know, I don't see many 200-pounders.
Right.
And I only take one,
Right.
because that's, we enjoy eating. You know, wouldn't it be better for me to target that?
Well-
Call it a season. Anything else I catch, release.
I
But,
understand.
you know, I enjoyed it, you know, my family enjoys it, as opposed to taking one that has a chance of.
I'm only going to give you my personal opinion. And my personal opinion is that any other species that has a size limit, we wouldn't take them if they were shorts. We'd wait till they can reproduce first.
Okay.
That's it. We'll wait.
But we don't see many 200-pounders. At least I don't. I fish a lot of sharks, and I, you know, don't see
Well,
that.
it's perfectly legal, and it's at your own discretion, and I can just tell you the experience with the information that I have. And I don't think it's good for something that's far more vulnerable to overfishing as compared to halibut, white sea bass, or anything else. To harvest it before it's had a chance to reproduce. We wouldn't do that with the other species. And it's the difference is, so you understand why it's not managed properly, is state management overdoes other species versus federal management. That's the difference. And the feds haven't gotten their stuff together and put the right implementation in place. And I don't know if they're, you know, collapses like they did on those coasts. Then they did a size limit that's not even centered around reproduction first. So, because they still want to keep that money flowing in. That's all that's a real concern, and hope it pans out.
So you're saying the
It's not
state-
just them that's the problem, it's every country, because they're all doing the exact same thing.
So you're saying the state doesn't regulate this? This is all federally done?
Yes, this, with the NACO, they enforce it, the state, but the federal management sets the fisheries management plan.
Okay.
When the state lost its funding about 10 years ago, then they started in with their first federal management plan.
That's for all shark species, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
Pledging plans, you know, and individuals.
Two quick questions for you. I know you're more focused on sharks, but on tuna, we've had a lot of, as you know, a lot of bluefin tuna the last few
Right.
years. The albacore seem to be non-existent. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but
Right.
any thoughts on if albacore are going to come back into the area?
Well, I don't know. The fin bait's the problem. There's just none of it to bring them here. If there's no food here, they're not going to come.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys, I'm really tired and I'm dizzy. I'm glad I got this to hold me.
So we're using circle hooks mostly?
You know what, I was using just little bitty hooks like this on a 200 pounder, and I just never put that much drag on it, and I bought it for 30 minutes, and when it got to the boat, I just used my gloves, and I just snatched it and pulled the hook out. And I roped it straight right out. Yeah, so I think it's a great challenge at Sporting too, to not bend the hook and try to get it there.
In the past 2 years, my wife and I have caught 4 juvenile threshers between PB, inside LA Harbor, out in front of Huntington,
Sure.
in 16, 17 fathoms. I'm assuming those are nursery fish.
Yeah, they are.
And are they, 2 questions. One, they've all taken swim baits by the mouth. I was always hearing that they're going to slap their bait and do this and do that. And the second thing is, are they there all year long, or is that only like a spring, early summer kind of a scenario?
I'll tell you what happened with me a lot with the threshers. Information is paramount, but I worked with the spotter plants and the harvest all the fin bait and the squid and all that. And they call me and they tell me when the big bands of sardines or anchovies are coming down through Channel Islands and when they're going to come into Santa Monica Bay. And if you go to that, the white sea bass and the threshers are just so thick on them, it's ridiculous. And the temperature is that critical, one of the really cold, they'll be there. Those juveniles, they're always there. So, but inside Long Beach Harbor, I've caught and released over 100 of those juvenile threshers. We did a world record on the line class, and I only did it because I did it, and I've showed that it could be released alive and done alive. And I did it with the Mako too, and I only did one of these because I didn't care about the line class records. But I don't care about killing juvenile fish for a namesake.
Well, there's a ton of fun on bass gear.
But I think the threshers, I'm tired right now, but I think it's like 150 pounds before they can start reproducing, so. Pretty interesting.
There's no size limit on those, then, right?
None at all. And
Yeah,
just
because
think if all of our species had no size limit, you know, and it's just, they haven't done a good job, and it's beds versus states. And,
Well, up to what Tom just said, they're killing them off of Huntington Pier,
Yeah, I know.
40, 60, and 80 pounders.
LA Sharking Cruise, baby.
Huh?
That's what they call themselves, the LA Sharking Cruise. So I'm talking to them on social media all the time, trying to. Yeah, that great white that's they're gonna have her pups is about right there right now, the last I looked at the tracking, so I don't know how far up there she's gonna go, but they're worried she's gonna get killed by the long lines up in there, so.
That wasn't the same one that was in Greenway.
What's that? No,
Greenway?
no.
Or was that just a fish storage?
Actually, if you go in the surf off Manhattan Beach or Sunset Beach, if you're in the breaking surf at Manhattan Beach Pier, especially the fall, you're definitely swimming with great whites everywhere, the juveniles. And the juvenile is like 200 to 400 pounds. I think they're like, as big as you.
They're going to hit you down far.
Yeah, so they've been there forever, and I've known about it for many years. Nobody knows, they don't bother anybody, and they're mainly eating bat rays and halibut is what they're after. And eat anything they get their jaws on, but they're all over in that area. And when I see all the white, their sardines going through like that, and I know the threshers and white sea bass are stacked up, I'll go and we have a cage that we're using, nobody's supposed to know this, and cameras all over, throwing it out on the light. And then the white sea bass and the threshers are coming up and fighting the cameras and tail swapping them. And one of the great whites that came up that swam by 3 times, there was a black sea bass right behind his tail, following it everywhere he went. He didn't want to get on the business. So nobody's supposed to know about that either. So,
That's great.
Keith, when they have a pup, is it just, how many do they have? One or?
I don't know. You know what? I've never kept up with great whites that much until last year, year and a half ago, when Michael started asking me to work with him, because I never wanted to be tempted to go there. So, but I think it's 4 to 6, I believe.
In general, then sharks would be 4 to 6?
Yes. Yes. Well, here's the thing. Female Mako is 400 pounds. 8 feet when she can have pups. She'll only have a few to start with, but as she gets bigger, 1,300 pounds, she can hold a pup. So as they get older, they can hold more, but it's all a little bit different. But I hear different estimates from different things I've looked at from breeders that are anywhere from 4 pups on the smaller side up to 8 and 12. But a lot of times when they cut them open, what they do, I forget the exact terminology, because they eat each other inside the womb, and then only the strongest fibers come out of there, so they're already very successful predators before they come out. It depends on how successful and how aggressive they are, how many are going to come out. You don't know, so it's hard to say. What's that?
Do they have any predators that each of the wounds?
You know, I would say probably the orcas, the LA pod, if they can get on their hands on them. But a lot of them are curious and they'll come up and they'll chew the paint off the boat, but other ones will stay cagey and stay away. And I always think the ones that are chewing the paint off are the ones that are going to die. The ones that are staying cagey and won't come up to the boat, those are the ones that are going to make it and probably wouldn't get eaten by anything. But I don't think an orca could catch a mako if it had to. But if they're being stupid and being curious, then they're taken out with their tail slap, it's over. So.
Do we know how long gestation is for these pelagic sharks?
For the great whites, it's 18 months.
18 months? Holy cow. And like, is it cycle, like, obviously there's mating seasons, like, so we're assuming there's a mating season every year, these sharks can't get pregnant every year.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing the tagging that we're doing, because we want to answer that question. And if they can only, they have an 18-month gestation period, how long a break do they take? And we can tell by monitoring, that's why they go to Guadalupe Island every year, where the females and the males meet at, where they mate at, the only place that we know of. And we watch the dorsal fins and all the cuts in them and stuff, they do. Michael's organization, MCS.